Hi guys! Work's been a little tough recently, so I decided to do something really fun this lunch break today and take a car for a spin on a test drive. Now, this is not a channel about cars, and I have no experience doing reviews. So how does this video actually fit into this channel? I was surprised to recently find some statistics about car sales in Switzerland. What we're gonna test today is apparently, in line with some little bit dated statistics, the best-selling car in Switzerland. Can you guess what it is? Volkswagen Golf? Close, but no. Skoda Octavia? Well, that's also a decent guess, but also no. Fiat 500? I see why you would think that, but also no. The Mini Cooper? Yeah, well, that would make sense, there's a lot of them, but no. Mercedes, BMW, Audi? No, no, no. Today we're testing the Tesla Model 3.
So come and see, no matter what I do, head first into this hurricane. Yes, I know, head high, let it go, but it hits me like the pouring rain. Whoa, can't seem to fight this feeling, no matter what you call it. I only know that I got it back. Whoa, can't stop it if I want it.
Okay, let's see. No speed limits. Empty. Let's try it out, guys. Whoa! It's incredible. This is really unlike anything else. It's like driving a big drill, basically. Really fun.
When we're standing here, so what am I supposed to do? Please, baby, please let go. Have no fear, 'cause I'm head over heels for you.
Wow, that was really something absolutely epic. The handling, the acceleration, the braking. I love the interior. It's simple, but it has really nice materials all over. The whole car was really fun. And I drive a Mini, so I know what fun from driving is. 5 years ago, this was a gadget, and now it seems like it's a valid choice of a car. I'm actually really impressed, and the financing options are fantastic. So how about we sit down and do a little bit of car ownership math? Okay guys, so let's crunch some numbers. Recently I got a lot of comments from you asking about the cost of car ownership in Switzerland and Geneva. I thought that test driving the Tesla would be a great opportunity to talk about this topic. Now, of course, a car means very different things for a lot of people. For some it's just a tool to get them from point A to point B. For others, a car is really just a S-Class Coupe 560. So it's really difficult to make a one-size-fits-all video. I'm gonna provide a bunch of resources, links, and places where you can look up stuff, as well as a table, which I'm gonna show you in a second, which will be a little bit of a guideline between, let's say, what is, I think, the minimum and I think, let's say, the average, what you can spend. As usual, sky's the limit. So let's jump right into it. So as you can see, I broke the whole thing down in a couple of categories. I have a cheat sheet here. I hope you won't mind. I'm going to be cheating a little bit. First, actually buying the car. Switzerland is really expensive, but actually buying a car is not that bad here. The prices are actually reasonable. Of course, it's not as efficient a market as the one in Germany, where you have many sellers and buyers and the prices are just great. So it's a much smaller market, but on the upside is if you haggle well buying a used car, you might actually get a good deal because there's quite a lot of rather well-off people who want to sell their car soon. And for example, for them, the difference for selling for 10 or for 9,000 francs is not that big. What counts for them is to sell it quickly. So if you get lucky, you might actually get a good price. Where you want to look for cars is either the Facebook Marketplace or AutoScout. Both those links will be in the description of the video. I took as an example a Mini, year roughly 2012. So that's a car that will cost roughly 8,000 francs. The Tesla that we tested just today will cost you 44,990 if you buy the new car. You can lease it for free, 155 per month, but there is a down payment at the beginning. Or let's say, I think the cheapest option probably to buy a reasonably safe and reliable car will be something like 2,000 francs. I mean, I saw old Smarts for sale or like old Fiat Puntos for sale for something like 500-700 francs, but I'm not really sure how reliable this is. Also, Switzerland does not really favor old cars. The taxes on the emissions will be higher, and also there are very rigorous technical tests, so it's actually quite difficult to pass this test with a car that is really old. If you want to finance the car, you can do leasing or you can do a credit for the car, even if it's used, and you will pay something between, let's say, 5 to 10% annually, even if it's a used car. One company that does it, for example, is Sembra. I can also put the link in the video description. So look up the prices on the websites. If you have your own car, we can just proceed to the second point. And this is where stuff can get potentially quite expensive, is the taxes on the car. And I'm going to be speaking about Geneva here specifically because that's where I live. They are probably a little bit comparable around Switzerland. But what you pay for in Switzerland is, let's say, the tax on CO2 emission of the car. So the bigger the engine, of course, the bigger the tax will be. So as I said previously, you can buy a used car with a reasonably good price, but if it has a really big engine, you will be paying a lot of tax every year. I put here as an example the Mini, let's say as an average or actually quite close to the cheap option. It's like 210 francs per year. It's actually quite a cheap option. Probably on average is going to be something like 500-600 francs, but if you have a big engine, you will pay a couple of thousand francs per year just for the tax for the car. So this is a little bit funny because you don't know, you can buy a 20-year-old Porsche Boxster for probably less than 10,000 francs right now, but you will be paying something like 25% of the value of the car every year in taxes. So this is where it gets a little bit expensive. On the other hand, this is where Tesla has a great example. Because there is no emission, it's really favored by the government, and in this case, you don't pay any taxes. Pretty cool. Next comes insurance. This is really subjective, let's say. If you take the car in financing, you have to have the full option. So depending on the value and how old the car is, if it's a used car, you'll be paying something like 1.4 thousand. If it's a more expensive car, of course, more. But if the car is already yours, there's no financing on it, you don't care, for example, if it gets stolen, you can probably pay as little as 300 francs, but this is really the bare minimum. So let's say, I would say on average, most people pay something like 1.5 thousand francs per month. The Tesla is actually also quite advantageous here because it has a lot of autopilot systems and those kind of security systems on board. So the insurance is a little bit lower, as you can see here. I've been speaking to the gentleman from the dealership. He mentioned something like 1.2 thousand francs, so I'm putting this here. Now, parking in Geneva. And I realized the situation in Geneva is probably very different than the situation in Zurich, since Geneva is almost France. Your car will really get damaged on the streets, big time. Depending on the neighborhood, it will get scratched by other people parking. So I bought my car, it was used, but it was in a, let's say, perfect condition. After a year of parking, it looks horrible. It's literally scratched from every side. And I don't mean little tiny scratches. It's basically somebody is trying to leave their parking spot. They touch you with the bumper and they do not even think of going back. They just force through. They scratch, they rip off the lacquer. It looks horrible and it breaks my heart. And the first time I saw it, I was really shocked because where I come from, this is actually unthinkable to touch somebody else's car. But yeah, this is kind of the norm here, and no insurance covers this. So if you're really touchy about your car and you have a new beautiful car, probably it's better to get a garage for which you'll pay, depending on the neighborhood, something like 300 or 400 francs per month. If you don't care as much, if you have a car that is used and you treat it a little bit more like a tool that you use to get by from place to place, you can park on the streets. To park on the streets, the city is divided in a number of areas, zones. You go to the parking foundation, you get a sticker on your car saying that you can park on the blue zones, so specifically only where the blue places are, in a given neighborhood, and this costs 200 francs per year. Next, gas. In Geneva, last time I checked, I mean, I also haven't been driving for a couple of weeks, but it's roughly right now, at the time of making this video, 1.65 franc per liter. Obviously, this is not applicable to Tesla, which you don't have to tank. Depending on how many kilometers you do with your car and what's the consumption, you will have to make the calculation here yourself. Then you have checkups. But I've been talking to the gentleman from the Tesla dealership. He mentioned something like 300-400 francs for the Tesla per year, because really it's only the air conditioning and brake fluid that has to be changed there. And then I'm not even going to try to put an average number number because it really depends on the brand and how old your car is and what needs to be changed. Just as an example, I took my car to for a checkup. I'm actually quite lucky because the first 10 years service is included, so a lot of stuff was written off. I think the initial number was something like 1.8 thousand francs. With a lot of stuff written off, I paid just for residuals, which was 165. But this is really extremely cheap, only because I have service included in the first 10 years or the first 100,000 kilometers. So here, probably you would say on average 1.5 thousand, something like this. But this is really, please do not rely too much on this number. It really depends if you go to an authorized dealership or if you do it in a smaller shop, what brand it is and what needs to be exchanged. The last point, this is something that has to be taken into consideration, is that depending how old your car is, you have to have kind of mandatory governmental checkups of your car, and they're quite rigorous. So you have to bring the car to the cantonal office for, let's say, vehicles, and they will check up the car. It's quite rigorous. You also even have to wash the engine when you bring it, so it's like it has to be in perfect condition. So when this kind of checkup is approaching, you might have a little bit of a higher bill on the checkup to make the car in a good condition to pass the test. If it doesn't pass the test, you cannot drive it on the streets. And that pretty much wraps it up for the costs of owning a car in Geneva. Obviously, a new Tesla is much more expensive than buying a used car, but as you can see, there's a bunch of stuff that you will be saving quite a lot on. I've heard somebody say that it's roughly 30% cheaper basically per mile to drive a Tesla, and I completely believe it, especially that compared to a car, let's say if you have something like a 2.5 liter engine, you'll pay a lot of tax, maybe 2-3K per year. So there is the biggest difference against a Tesla. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please click the subscribe button so we can stay in touch. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Do not hesitate to leave a comment if you have any questions. I'll try to answer them if I can. And see you in the next video, which will probably be 3 weeks from now. So in the week of 14th of September or so. I have quite a lot of materials to work through. See you in that one. Thanks for watching. Bye.